Falling Frontier has unfortunately been delayed, and it's quite a long one at that. It's been delayed until sometime in 2025. Now, Falling Frontier is one of my most anticipated space games for a very long time. I was hoping for it to turn up in 2022 like many people, and when that didn't happen, I was expecting 23. As we got towards the end of this year, 24 seemed like the most likely candidate, so the delay into 2025 is certainly a bit surprising. That said though, the developer does have a very good reason for this, and they've unfortunately had to take time off due to family health issues, so this is certainly very sad, and I wish them all the best. Despite this all affecting things though, the developers said that they have made significant progress this year. In an information release on Steam, they've said they've revamped combat systems this year and overhauled ship designs. And this is thanks to the addition of a new artist to the team. Meanwhile, publishers Hooded Horse have said indie development is incredibly difficult, especially for small teams. We're so proud of what Todd and Stutterfox Studios have achieved so far and are fully committed to Falling Frontier. We can't wait to show more of the game to fans, but we also want to make sure that it has the time it needs to be done right. And I think that is entirely fair. In fact, I think most people are going to find this is completely reasonable. After all, it's much better to have a game in perfect working order that is very well put together rather than a game that has problems. And if a delay is required to achieve that, then, well, I guess so be it. So yeah, it's certainly a shame to hear about the delay, but I think it's going to ultimately be worth it. Why do I say that? Well, there's a lot of very interesting features about Falling Frontier that should, at least hopefully, make it stand out in the RTS genre. In short, there is a lot of hype around Falling Frontier, and it's pretty easy to see why, and here's a few of those reasons. Now, from what we've seen so far, at least based on the various trailers and gameplay videos, Falling Frontier is an absolutely gorgeous looking game. It is an RTS game, a single player one at that, but it's set in an arena of a pretty large scale, an entire solar system in fact. Just look at the zoom out of the footage right here. So it is a pretty brief zoom, but it gives a fantastic example and a fantastic insight as to the scale. Meanwhile, combat is all about strategy and tactics. And to help with that, the game features a slow motion mode you can make use of. So that means this one is definitely going to be all about strategy and tactics, rather than your reaction times. So for me, this is absolutely perfect, as that's my ideal type of strategy game. I much prefer the slow, long, methodical approach, where you really need to use your mind and think things through, rather than when things get super hectic and it's all just about reaction. So all of that required planning and thinking is really going to be assisted by the slow motion mode that you just saw in action. Another thing that really stands out for me with Falling Frontier is the character system. Now, it's by no means unique for an RTS game to have hero characters or a heavy focus on specific characters, but Falling Frontier has a pretty unique approach to this. Keep in mind though that it seems a lot of things are in a state of flux when it comes to Falling Frontier, so it's unclear, at least right now, how much of this will actually make it to release. Another point here is that looking back at this slightly older footage really does highlight just how far Falling Frontier has come during its development cycle. I mean, the graphics here and the visuals are pretty interesting, as is the UI and the other elements, but it's very clear they have changed substantially during the past few years. So when it comes to characters, these all form a part of your crew, and you can hire these and put these in specific positions. For example, these can be positions such as the ship's captain, the engineer, gunnery officer, or navigator. Now, as you may expect, these are officer roles, and that makes these characters of vital and significant importance. In fact, this was demonstrated very well from an early video called Search and Rescue, where the Search and Rescue gameplay was demonstrated. You see, it's entirely possible through various different means for the enemy to get a hold of your officers. Maybe they attack your ship and the officer ejects in an escape pod. Now, as you might expect, the officer could be of extreme value to the enemy. Due to their very role, due to their very nature, officers hold vital strategic and tactical information. For example, an engineer may hold information about the design of a specific ship class, whereas a captain may hold information about battle plans. If the enemy then gets a hold of one of your officers, they may extract this type of information from them, and this will give them a benefit in their ongoing conflict. This is where your role will come in Search and Rescue. You're going to want to get your officers back as soon as you possibly can, because you don't really want the valuable officer falling into enemy hands, and you certainly don't want that valuable information falling into enemy hands. So again, we don't really know how this is going to play out in the current iteration or the release iteration of Fallen Frontier, but this was certainly something they discussed early on, and you can see it was a little while ago due to the earlier version, earlier rendition of the visuals here. But nonetheless, I'm really hoping that this is a particular element that does survive all the way through to the game's release. It's something which I find absolutely fascinating in an RTS game. And then of course there's the huge game world, absolutely a lovely looking place, and this is going to be a massive appeal for a lot of people, not to mention the variety of ships that are going to be present as well. So there we have it, a few points as to why I'm still looking forward to Fallen Frontier, and a bit of an update on the release schedule for that. Unfortunately delayed into 2025, and this is a really long delay, but it seems there's some valid reasons for that. At any rate, do let me know what you think about all of this in the comments section, and do check out the other videos on the screen right here.